Hi, everybody. I am here so excited with the Executive Director, Janelle Perez of the LPAC. And I'm going to do a quick introduction because she's too fabulous not to kind of read her bio. Janelle Perez is a mission-driven leader with well over a decade of experience at the intersection of healthcare policy and organizational leadership. She's a mother, first-generation American, cancer survivor and businesswoman who ran for Florida State Senator in 2022 to fight for healthcare access, justice, and equal representation. Janelle began her career on Capitol Hill before leading advocacy efforts for global health funding. With a deep commitment to compassionate leadership, Janelle now serves as Executive Director of LPAC, the nation's only organization dedicated to electing LGBTQ women and non-binary leaders. And that is the role and the reason we are speaking to Janelle today, because I can't think of anything more important right now in these times than the power of elections and representation. So I am so thrilled to welcome you, Janelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Well, I can't. Okay, so wait, before we get into LPAC, we can't skip over today's Supreme Court decision to reject overturning same-sex marriage, or at least even hearing the case. And it's sort of schizophrenic because we just had just a few days ago the ruling of the anti-trans passport ruling. We know that this is a hostile court. It feels like, and every time the Supreme Court or any court makes decisions, I scream in my head and sometimes out loud, elections matter. So I'm curious what your reaction is, given the seat that you sit in.
Well, I mean, I think of course, I'm really excited. Actually, this morning when the news came in and I saw it, I was with my wife and I was like, look, we don't have to be worried about this situation. I mean, it's a huge relief that they're not going to take up this case in specific. But I want everyone to be vigilant about the fact that, yes, in this case in specific with this awful woman, they're not going to hear it. But we do know that there are Supreme Court justices that do want to see marriage equality overturned. So I don't think we would do right by letting our guard down. Can we breathe a sigh of relief? Yes, in this moment we can. And I think we should. I think for marriage equality to be overturned, it's going to take something really serious and challenging. But that's not to say that we don't have a Supreme Court that will jump to the opportunity to hear the right case in the right situation at the right time. I think we shouldn't take our freedoms for granted. And that doesn't mean that we should let our guard down. And I think that's something that has happened, when we got marriage equality. I think a lot of people felt like, oh, the fight was won, that's it. And I don't think that we should underestimate the long game that the other side is willing to play. Look at how long it took them to overturn abortion and Roe v. Wade. I don't want us to think that they're not going to continue to come after us in every chance they possibly get to overturn our right to marry whoever we want. So I think that's just what I feel about today's election or today's decision. And yes, elections matter. You know what? In several states, just last Tuesday, we saw judges on the ballot. So elections matter. Paying attention to who is on your ballot, all the way from federal level down to dog catcher. It is important to know who is on your ballot and to make the right decisions and where they stand on their opinions for things that impact your life. So I don't think we should ever let our guard down. Supreme Court justices often come from these local and state legislatures and or courts, and they move their way up. So,
And again, this is sort of, I can't imagine being in your head recently, because given your background in working very hard for healthcare access for equitable healthcare access. And given we've had we still are in a government shutdown, millions of Americans face losing their healthcare access. I got my letter kicking me off Medicaid. I got, my healthcare is about to change. I think your head must be spinning. Again, about who's in power.
Definitely. So when I was younger and living in Washington, D.C., towards the beginning of my career, I was a global health lobbyist for the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And in some way or another, my life has always led me to access to healthcare. And as a cancer survivor, I was diagnosed with cancer at 28 years old. One of my maintenance chemos was denied and by accident, and I received a bill for $30,000. This wasn't even my actual chemo; it was my maintenance chemo. That is what led me to decide to run for office in the state of Florida. In this state, there are very purposeful reasons as to why people don't have access to Medicaid. They do it on purpose. They don't want more people to have access to Medicaid. They want to do everything humanly possible to cut access to Medicaid and to make it close to impossible. And so I ran because I believe that every human being has a fundamental right to affordable health care, to access to meaningful, high quality health care, because we shouldn't be forced in the greatest country on earth, because I do believe that America and the United States is the greatest country on earth. I do believe that we are one of the wealthiest country on earth. When we have billionaires living in this country and becoming billionaires in this country, I strongly believe that our citizens, our neighbors shouldn't have to decide whether they're going to put food on the table or go to see a doctor. That shouldn't be a choice. That should be a God-given right, because we all deserve to live, and we all deserve to live healthy lives when we want it, and when we want to go see a doctor, and when we want all of those things. So yeah, my head is turning because it breaks my heart. I have been on both sides. My family, not only have I been on the other side and been sick and know what that feels like, but my family also, we own a Medicare Advantage plan here in Miami-Dade County. I know how hard it is for these seniors to get access to Medicare and to Medicaid benefits when they qualify for it. And even for seniors who are in their retirement, this state makes it really hard for them to get access to Medicaid too. So it's awful, and it's a big part of my why for the things that I do. Healthcare is always at the core of why I've always done these things. And then I'm at LPAC. I'm the executive director of this organization because representation matters. Because when I was a candidate for office, queer women were the ones that stood by me in lockstep. And when I mean, like, they were willing to get down and dirty and to do the things that other organizations weren't willing to do for me, LPAC was that organization that was like, we're going to fight with you no matter what. And they got involved early, and they got involved strong. And when you're a candidate, that is one of the, not only do you need funding, do you need money, but you need somebody who's going to fight alongside with you. And LPAC was that for me.
So for anyone who hasn't heard of LPAC, what was the, expand a little bit more about what was the impetus for starting LPAC, and what is the scope of your work at LPAC?
So LPAC was founded in 2012 by a group of queer women led by Urvashi Vaughn, who is, I wish I would have had the chance to meet her.
I did. I knew Urvashi very well.
I think I've had the chance to read so much about her and to watch so many videos of her. And I think she is was an incredible human being. And a huge light and example for me in this role. But so it was started in 2012 because this group of women they were a group of donor class women. So they were supporting campaigns across the country, and LGBTQ causes across the country. one of the things that they noticed was where their contributions were going and who running for office was receiving the most support. It wasn't equitable. A lot of the money wasn't going to queer women, but maybe it would go, what they would receive was whatever was left over from, you know, the cisgender white men, white gay men that were running. And then like at the end came, you know, the lesbian women and the bisexual folks and the trans women. And they noticed that, you know, that wasn't in their best interest as donors. They wanted to see some more equity. And so they started LPAC. And LPAC was originally, when we were founded, we supported everyone who was good on our issues. So at the beginning, you know, cisgender men were endorsed. You know, there was at that time only one lesbian woman on the ballot, and it was Senator Tammy Baldwin.
I remember.
Yeah. So in 2012, we just had one LGBTQ woman on the ballot. Fast forward to 2024, and in 2024, we had over 248 LGBTQ women and non-binary people on the ballot only. So I know 2024 was an awful year. I mean, for us, we had a 74% win rate on election night. Our candidates won. But fast forward to 2012, only having one queer woman on the ballot, to 248 people that identify as LGBTQ women or non-binary. That's huge. That's progress. That's in my sense, that is a victory in its own. And that's why LPAC matters. That's why the work that we do matters, is because we make sure that these folks that are running for office are recognized, that they are receiving equitable support. And just last year, we launched the Urvashi Vaughn Legacy Fund, which supports our candidate, LPAC candidates. So if you qualify for our endorsement, women of color or non-binary folks of color. So that we created within ourselves another way to continue to be equitable and level the playing field and make sure that the candidates of color that qualify for LPAC's endorsement are also have their own pocket of funds that are just for them.
It's interesting because I know Urvashi's diehard commitment to intersectionality, and I know her values and her heart. What do you look for in terms of your candidates? What sorts of values do you look for, or is there a set of values?
So the number one thing to qualify for our endorsement is that you have to identify as an LGBTQ woman or non-binary. That's it. Pretty much the only folks that don't qualify our endorsement are people that identify as men, or that's it. So LPAC. So what does it take to become one of our candidates? We have a questionnaire that we send anyone that is interested in our endorsement. In our questionnaire, we ask. I mean, we are a nonpartisan organization. So anyone can apply for our endorsement. Doesn't matter what political affiliation you are in. But based on our values and our missions, which most of our candidates, I'm trying to like tread this question. Most of our candidates tend to be on the progressive side based on their answers to the questions that we ask. There are core values that our organization holds, and it is, you know, supporting gender reaffirming care. You know, yes, you have to identify as an LGBTQ woman or non-binary. What is your stance on gun reform? Do you support banning assault weapons? We have climate questions. We have tax code questions. We go really in depth to make sure that the candidates that we endorse uphold our values as queer LGBTQ women and non-binary folks. That is our board and our organization's value. And we try to stick to, you know, it's funny, we really do. I can't tell you how many times Urvashi comes up in our board meetings in like where would she stand on this? And especially when, you know, we were founded as an organization back then as lesbian, you know, it wasn't technically lesbian PAC, but it was kind of what we all thought. So when it came time to supporting non-binary candidates, given that we were an organization that was founded by women, we wanted to make sure when we were having that conversation, it was where would Urvashi stand on this? And as you said, it ended up not becoming a question. We had to support non-binary candidates, right, because that's what she would have done as well.
Right. WWUD. What would
Urvashi do? That's right.
Your bracelets there.
You know, I should make those for my board.
WWUD. So we know we're obviously living in backlash times. I mean, I was, a child of the late 80s and early 90s and grew up with her, and following her, I interviewed Urvashi any chance I could for any documentary I ever did. But this is obviously not tonal. These are real issues. Our community is facing real issues in housing, mental health, healthcare. So much is at stake. And I'd love for you to give us, I was looking at your website and some of these statistics are really scary. We really have some issues we need to tackle. And I'd love for you to kind of even just paint a brief portrait, of what are some of our issues that is important for us to know about?
Yeah. So we know healthcare, housing, even climate injustice, these issues impact the LGBTQ community at a higher rate than it does a lot of other communities. One of the things that is really concerning to me and that I would really love to talk about, and especially to the engaged folks that are probably listening to this, we have a 501c3 arm called Project LPAC that does research on voting trends. We've done research on what leads LGBTQ women and non-binary folks to run. That's what we did in 2024. In 2025, we did some research and voting trends for queer women, like what leads us to vote, we set out to do a couple of things. We noticed that, after the horrible outcome of 2024, our community was often scapegoated as to why Democrats lost. So we wanted to go out there and show that, and prove that LGBTQ women are the next strongest voting bloc for progressives and Democratic candidates than Black women are. We are right underneath Black women when it comes to the percentage of folks that are progressive.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So, and when it comes to progressive issues, LGBTQ women are always at the front line of supporting them. During the AIDS pandemic, lesbian women stepped up for our gay brothers that were dying in alarming rates, and we were the only ones actually taking care of them for a long time. During the abortion debate and fights and battles, lesbian women have been at the forefront of that and some of the highest supporters of that issue. One of the really alarming data points that we got about voting was that 87% of LGBTQ women and non-binary folks are already registered to vote. That was part of the answers, but only 57% of them are almost certain to vote in 2026, and 26% of them are not likely to vote. So when you hear that number, you have 87% of our population already there, ready to vote, registered. We are really cheap. You don't have to register us. We're already registered. But the fact that only 57% of us, over the summer, we did this poll, only 57% of those people that were polled are almost certain to vote in 2026, meaning next year. How is there this big of a drop? What are Democrats doing, or what are progressives doing that is making this giant drop of people not feel like they're going to vote? And this was in a poll. 57% they're almost likely to vote, which means the reality is that it's somewhere around 47. You drop 10 points because that they're being polled that. So how is it that almost half of these people that are already registered to vote will likely not vote in 2026 when this much is at stake? So, I see that number and I find it to be alarming. And now at LPAC as executive director, what am I trying to do is I'm trying to sound the alarms to the folks that need to hear this. Because if you lose this many people, and I want to say that this trend, this pattern, we also polled in this poll, we polled young straight women as well. The numbers they trend the same way with straight young women as well. So it's alarming that Democrats are not getting people to move to vote yet. Like, and that's scary. That's really, really scary because 2026 is around the corner and I know that 2025 just happened last Tuesday and maybe people got more energized and engaged because we won New Jersey and Virginia, and New York, but this is scary. And I think that this is a moment in time where people really do need to wake up. And the people that are listening that are already engaged, this is a call to action. We've got 1 year to make sure that every single person that we know is registered to vote. Yeah. And they know that they have to vote in 2026. Yeah. It's a midterm election. We know not as many people vote as they do in a general election. But if we want any chance at stopping Donald Trump and this extreme MAGA agenda that is clearly not working for anyone, you have to vote. If it wasn't important, there's that saying, if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be trying so hard to silence your vote. Well, we have to vote. We could be angry at what is happening with MAGA and with, everything that we're losing. And I get it. We're going to lose it, but we can get it back if we can stop them. If we can regain the House and regain the Senate, Donald Trump is useless.
I was sort of pushing you to give some of the stats, like 1 in 3 non-binary youth live in states that ban gender-affirming care. 50% of LGBTQ people face significant discrimination in housing. 40% of LGBTQ youth have considered suicide. I think it was 44% of LBQ girls and women have considered suicide, is a stat that I've read. We have, and I know there's hundreds of pieces of legislation that is moving through, and they're trying to pass to keep us, anti-LGBTQ legislation. If that's not motivation enough to get people to the polls, not to mention everything we started out with, whether it's your own healthcare, whether it's your pocketbook, whether it's all these other issues, that's why one of the reasons I started with the Supreme Court, courts matter, elections matter. I'm actually really shocked to hear those stats that you just read. And all the more reason to to up the ante on get out the vote. I mean, more than ever. If we don't get our asses to the polling stations in 2026, don't complain.
Our asses. It's our asses and our friends' asses. We gotta get everybody's asses
and our friends' asses and any grab an ass.
Yes.
Yes. That's
all the asses and take them to the polls.
That's the bumper sticker. Just grab an ass.
Yes.
Probably want to follow that up and get it to the poll, but unless you want to look like a slime dog.
Well, and we caught it. We have like little bumper stickers that say "You haul to the polls."
You haul to the polls.
Yeah, lesbians.
Brilliant.
Polls.
Brilliant. You haul to the polls. Oh my God, we got to put that up. So some good news is that you all had some wins, right, in this past Tuesday's elections?
We did. So far, 67% of LPAC endorsed candidates won their races on election night. And so on election night, 67% of our candidates that were on the ballot election night won. The overall for 2025 for us was 63%.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so here I've got some really good ones. So 78% of the candidates that LPAC contributed to won. So that's the other thing with us too, is not only are we endorsing these candidates, but we're being very strategic. I wish we had all the money in the world to be able to support every single one of our candidates financially. We don't. I wish we did, but we don't. I know, we need funding, please. When we do give to candidates, we are very strategic and mindful of when we give, how we give, and where we give. And so when you give to us, we want to make sure that you know that this is a good return on your investment. Having a 78% win rate for every candidate that received $1 of LPACs, which means for our donors, any money you've given to us, you've got a 78% return on it with the amount of our candidates that have won. This election night, 77% of our candidates in southern states won. 71% of our candidates 40 and under won their election or won their races. 87% of our candidates of color won their races. And 71% of trans and non-binary candidates won their races. So we had a really great election night in 2025, and we had a, I want to know, let me see, I'm looking at all my numbers, but we had, from my last recollection, we had, I think it was 98 candidates this election cycle, which is an off year. Hopefully in 2026, I mean, in 2028, we had, 2024, we had 248. I would really love to see that many candidates in 2026. I'd like to break the 200 threshold. I know it's a midterm, but you know, our community has, like, we're very, according to our data, we are very mission driven. And often when we run because there's a problem and we want to solve it, and because no one else is solving it. So we have a tendency, as I could say this as myself as a lesbian, when something is broken, I'm not calling on anyone else to fix this because they can't. I'm gonna fix it. Yeah. So so you know, we have, I love hearing stories of our candidates of when we ask them, like, when they decided to run and what led them to run. We have a candidate in Minnesota that ran because when her kid was born, she couldn't sign the birth certificate. She didn't have the right to sign the birth certificate. So she ran for office to change the law. Like, those are the things. Me in Florida, I saw too many people dying around me while I was getting my cancer treatment because they couldn't afford to get the healthcare that they needed. So what did I do? I ran for office because Medicaid expansion needs to happen in Florida. We're one of only 8 states that hasn't passed it to the standards that are set by Obamacare. But we have the highest enrollees of Obamacare right here in Miami-Dade County. So it's just, you know, I think we're going to see these numbers continue to grow. And I think LPAC really has a unique ability to stand. I mean, we really do go against the trends, in the sense, like, we are not afraid to get involved in primaries. If there's 5 other women in that race, we're going to get involved and we're going to support the queer woman that's in that race, no matter what. And we see that happening. We're seeing that happening with Angie Craig. Right now, Angie Craig is in a primary, who is probably running up against, you know, the lieutenant governor.
Where's Angie Craig?
Minnesota.
Okay.
Angie Craig stands to join Tammy Baldwin in the U.S. Senate, and we would now have 2 lesbian women in the U.S. Senate. But she has a primary. She has a really, really difficult primary against the lieutenant governor, who is an impressive woman on her own. And I think, you know, I hate when I see women battle it out for these races, but if we want to see representation, Angie Craig has been an amazing member of Congress that has fought for all of us. To see her move to the US Senate as an LGBTQ woman to join, like the only people that are going to help, the only organizations that are going to be able to help Angie Craig right now are LGBTQ organizations. So this is why it is important that we support Tammy in this primary. If we want to see that kind of representation. So we do get involved in races where often, Democrats can't get involved because it's a Democratic primary. So there's like internal politics in the background. We don't care about those internal politics. We stand for our people no matter what.
So 2026 is obviously, you're gearing up for a really big year, as we all are. So, I mean, at Venus, Venus is a new community app where we are emboldening LGBTQ, LBQ plus women and non-binary trans lesbians to really feel empowered and to get involved. So my question to you is, how do we all get involved? What is the best? I mean, I'm hearing get your U-Haul your asses to the polls, but we have a ways to go to November. So what is the best way for, we need to empower and make sure that we energize our community to know who's running, to know how we can get engaged. So how do we get engaged?
I mean, look, there's so many ways, and I don't want to tell folks, just go find an LPAC endorsed candidate close to you, because there might not be. You might live in an area where there isn't. But I think finding out who's running in 2026, more often than not, someone is running in your neighborhood or to represent you. The chances in 2026 of somebody is running, actually every member of Congress is on the ballot in 2026. So you can start there. Find out who your member of Congress is, find out what their issues are. If they're not good on issues that are important to you, like your mere existence, find out who's running against them. If no one is running against them, and it sucks, sometimes people don't get an opponent. Some of these seats are so safe that you don't find out an issue that is on the ballot. Like, there's ballot initiatives that are really important. Just last year in Florida, we had a really important ballot initiative, which was the abortion ballot initiative. Unfortunately, it didn't pass because we've got, I'm not going to say the F word, but we've got messed up laws in Florida. But it's find out what is happening where you live. How are people being treated? And then get involved in those campaigns. You might not have a queer person on the ballot close to you where you can get involved and volunteer. But you might have somebody who's really good on our issues. Talk to your friends and family about that person. Hold meet and greets. Often candidates need meet and greets, and what they need is just a location where they can go and tell folks like, hey, I'm going to be here. And it doesn't always need to be a fundraiser, but it could be a meet and greet. I remember when I was a candidate, I would have meet and greets in coffee shops. Somebody would tell me, they would say like, okay, we're going to get this space in this coffee shop and we're going to tell everyone we know to go. And they had a chance to meet you. Simple things like that. Not every candidate needs you to write them a check. They do. Don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, money is still the necessary evil of politics. But more importantly, candidates need votes. So if you find a candidate in your area that you believe in, do everything you possibly can to make sure every single person goes out and votes for that person. So I think that's what we could do. And we've got so much time until 2026. People are announcing their candidacies now, and they will continue to announce them until qualifying. and qualifying is different in every single state. I encourage folks to go to our website, teamlpac.com. You can see all of the candidates that we're endorsing. My email, my team's email, we are all there and able to answer questions that you might have to these campaigns. If there's no campaigns near you and there's someone that you like, sign up to volunteer on their campaigns. They often have virtual phone banks where they'll give you a list of people where you can call from the comfort of your home and just sit there calling with a script. And it's not hard. It's not hard to do phone banking at all. It's just calling people and letting them know, like, hey, have you heard about this candidate? And let me tell you about them. And it's that simple. And you got a script where everything is just handed to you easily. You can do cards. There are so many things that campaigns are doing. So if you just connect to that campaign, they will give you a task, whether you live close by or not. They will absolutely give you a task because every campaign needs so much help.
So say the website again.
We are www.teamlpac.com.
www.teamlpac.com. So it's a great website. So I encourage everybody to go, and I will give our own plug. Please join us on Venus at welcometovenus.com, because we are a community app that is designed to empower LBQ plus women, trans and non-binary people. So please join us so we can also come together and keep informing people how to also be empowered and support each other as a community. So Janelle, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today. I mean, it was just, what an honor. I just think what you guys are doing is, I cannot, it's like elections. I feel like crying. Elections matter, elections matter, elections matter.
Yeah.
It just matters so much. Look
Yeah.
at where we are. Look at where we are. Every election matters.
Yeah. Every time I hear people say, like, I don't like politics, it's so gross, and like just all of this, I'm always just like, guys, like, politics is everything, down to the price of the coffee that you drink, to the paper that makes the cup of the coffee that you drink. It all comes down to politics.
Comes down to who represents you. It matters. It matters. You cannot complain. And you are in a booth voting.
Yes. And the things that impact you every single day happen at the hyper local level. So it's not just what happens in Washington, D.C., but everyone needs to pay attention to what happens in their local municipalities. That's where LPAC really, really thrives. And I hope that if of anything that people take away from this conversation, it's you have to vote and you have to pay attention to the bottom of your ballot just as much as you do to whoever's at the top of that ticket.
Yes. And I will just scream that from the rooftops. So again, thank you so much, Janelle. And we will wrap out from here.
Thank you.
Join LPAC, guys. Goodbye.